Hello and welcome back to Culinary Haven. We continue our Christmas baking, and today we're bringing you an alternative to traditional mince pies, known in Scotland as dead fly cake, or in Ireland, according to my husband, fly graveyard, or to the rest of the world known as fruit slices. Let's begin. To prepare the fruit slices, or fruit squares rather, you'll need 3 cups of plain flour, 250 grams of cold butter, 1/4 of a cup of icing sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla sugar, and 5 tablespoons of cold water. And for the filling, we'll need 1 cup of raisins, 2 cups of currants, 1 apple, 150 grams of sugar, 2 tablespoons of ground almonds, 1 teaspoon of mixed spice, and 50 grams of butter. And we'll start with preparing the filling. And to prepare the filling, we'll need to peel and grate 1 apple, any apple, on a large side of the grater. I actually think I prefer fruit slices or fruit squares or dead fly cake to mince pies. A pot, small, medium size, 50 grams of butter goes in, and then we put the grated apple, very juicy, and 2 cups of currants, 150 grams of sugar, and 1 cup of raisins. We don't add the mixed spice or the almonds when we're cooking it. That will come in the end. And now we'll bring it to a simmer on a very low heat, stirring so that nothing burns in there. And what we're doing here is we're melting the butter and mixing it with all the other ingredients and stirring it until the sugar dissolves. Then we take it off the heat. So the butter has melted, and we will stir it now, almost melted, just a couple of bits, but it's already has enough moisture to not to be worried that the sugar will burn or the raisins will burn. It's fine, and we'll just stir it and cook it for a couple of minutes until it's hot enough to melt the sugar, and then I'll take it off the heat. I'm cooking on a very small burner here, so I'm actually going to turn the heat up because there's no danger of burning anything here. There's plenty of juices now. Melted butter and the juices from the apple are enough to melt the sugar. So literally 1 minute to go. This is it. There is no sugar on the bottom of the pan, and there is no sugar on the back of my spoon, so that's enough. Turn off the heat. This is it. The filling is ready. And now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of ground almonds to thicken it, because there is still plenty of apple juice in there, and 1 teaspoon of mixed spice to give it the Christmassy flavor. Stir it all. That's it, all done. Now we're transferring it into a bowl and let it cool completely. And now we'll prepare the dough, and this is my recipe for any short crust pastry, any pie, tart, anything. That's the recipe. I'm using a food processor for that. It's 3 cups of plain flour sifted, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a cup of icing sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla sugar. That's of course we're talking about sweet shortcrust pies and tarts. We'll pulse it together a little bit so that the sugar and the salt are distributed evenly in the flour. And next, 250 grams of very cold butter, unsalted butter, cubed. Now we'll put it on and run the motor until we get the breadcrumb consistency. Takes about 30 seconds or so. Very, very fine, tiny pieces of butter now all mixed in the flour. The last thing is 5 tablespoons of very cold water, just maybe 10 more seconds. That's it. 5 tablespoons of very cold, icy cold water. What we're looking for is just lumps of dough forming, and that's enough. Stop there. That's it. The dough is ready. Now we're going to transfer it onto a large piece of cling film, wrap it and chill it for 30 minutes. Just pull the ends of the cling film together and just make into a rectangle. Don't worry if you look at it and it looks like, my God, it's just crumbs and it will never be a dough and I will never be able to roll it. You will, everything will be fine. In 30 minutes it will be a not a crummy, a lumpy mixture. It will be the perfect shortcrust pastry. That's it. 30 minutes in the fridge. So it's been 30 minutes, the dough is nicely chilled and the filling is also chilled and is thick now. The ground almonds absorbed all the excess moisture and it's ready. Now we're going to divide the dough in 2 equal halves and roll them out. Nice and firm, but not too firm, so it will not be too difficult to roll out. We will need baking tray rimmed with at least an inch, 2.5 centimeters sides, and we'll line it with baking parchment. Now, clean surface. Something like that. Now, the size of this baking tray is 25 by 20 centimeters. So in those approximate measurements, think what you're going to make it in. Rolling it out to fit into this tray. It's such a lovely dough. Just don't push too hard, roll out gently and it will not break or crack. We'll just go in both directions at first, just very gently spreading it out. Preferably into a rectangle shape. Pastry brush, brush off the excess flour. Flour your rolling pin as well. Make sure that the surface you're working on is always slightly floured so that nothing sticks to this, and the shortcrust pastry is very easy to tear, so just make sure it's floured. I'm trying to keep in shape of the baking tray, so just making it to the size, to the required size, but also keeping it in shape. That's enough. Another couple centimeters this way, sideways. A little bit more. This is it. Now we're going to transfer this first bottom layer onto the baking tray. Push it down to fix that tray completely and perfectly. Make sure that the dough goes a little bit up the sides, making a nice little rim around the base. The same size, exactly the same size, we need to roll out the second piece of dough. Of course you could just roll it out and then cut out the required a piece by size, but then you would have scraps, and we avoid that by shaping it as we go and rolling it out into the exact size. That's how we roll. First you put it all in, and then with an offset spatula or a knife, just press it down and distribute it evenly all over the base of the cake. So apparently the nickname for dead fly cake or fly graveyard occurred because it resembled dead flies. A giant amount of dead flies lying down there. It doesn't look like dead flies to me. It looks like an incredibly delicious filling made of currants and raisins, but some mischievous Scottish grannies and Irish kids thought it looks like dead flies. Now, like this, nice and even, and we put the second layer on top of that. Oops. Talking too much, the dough is getting too warm, which is not good. Should be cold. Anyway, goes in, press it down. Preheat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius. And now we're going to pierce it with a fork all over, like this, to let the steam to come out. And this one as well. And brush it with an egg wash, sprinkle it with some sugar and bake it at 180 degrees Celsius for 30 to 35 minutes until it's all golden brown. 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of water is the perfect egg wash. Whisks in all sizes. Egg wash all over the top. And sprinkle it with some granulated sugar. Just a little bit for some texture. And it's now ready to go into the oven. 30 to 35 minutes. Watch it, it should be nicely golden brown. This is it, the cake is ready, and I'm going to lift it out of the tray and put it on the wire rack. Nicely golden brown. Now we have to let it cool completely on the wire rack before we slice it and dust it with ice and sugar and syrup. Thank you for watching this episode of Culinary Haven. I really hope you try the fruit squares this Christmas. Until next time, bye! To prepare the fruit, smid the gonna go. My dress is covered in flour, my sleeves and my face, but it's all good.